You have been chasing the wrong prize your entire life. Every morning you wake up and immediately begin the desperate scramble for more money, more recognition, more security. You check your bank account before you check your soul. You plan your day around profit margins instead of principles. And deep down, in that quiet moment between sleep and consciousness, you know this frantic pursuit is slowly killing the very thing that could make you truly powerful. You are tired of being a slave to circumstances, tired of watching lesser men rise while you remain trapped in cycles of effort without elevation. You are secretly exhausted by the noise, the endless strategies, the motivational content that pumps you up for a day and leaves you emptier than before. But what if I told you that 3,000 years ago, a young king discovered the one secret that transforms ordinary men into forces of nature? What if the very thing you have been avoiding is the key that unlocks everything you have been chasing? Solomon did not ask for gold, he asked for wisdom. And because he understood this one immutable law, gold became his servant, nations bowed to his counsel, and his name echoes through eternity, while the names of his wealthy contemporaries have been forgotten by history. Today, you will learn to think like Solomon. You will discover why the men who build empires always master their minds before they master their markets. You will understand how silence becomes your greatest weapon, how disciplined thought becomes your invisible legislature, and how a single decision to seek understanding instead of income can cause wealth to flow to you as naturally as water flows downhill. This is not another motivational speech. This is the reconstruction of your mental architecture. When you finish watching this video, you will no longer be someone who chases money. You will be someone who commands it. You will no longer be someone who reacts to circumstances. You will be someone who creates them. The world belongs to those who think differently, and today your thinking changes forever. If you are ready to join the ranks of men who shape reality instead of being shaped by it, then subscribe now and prepare to discover the secret wisdom that separates kings from beggars. Number 1, the choice that defined Solomon's destiny. You stand at the same crossroads that once faced a young king 3,000 years ago. Every morning when you wake up, you make the same choice Solomon made, but you make it backwards. You reach for your phone to check what others have gained while you slept. You calculate your losses. You inventory your lacks. You choose the visible over the invisible, the temporary over the eternal, the symptom over the cause. Solomon stood before infinite possibility and made a decision that would echo through eternity. When the divine voice offered him anything his heart desired, he could have asked for gold that would make him richer than all the kings of the earth. He could have requested armies that would crush every enemy. He could have demanded years beyond measure or pleasures beyond imagination. But Solomon understood something that escapes 99% of humanity, the difference between asking for the river and asking for the spring. He asked for an understanding heart, not wealth, not power, not fame, understanding. This was not the choice of a moral man trying to impress heaven. This was the calculated decision of a strategic mind who recognized that every external kingdom rises or falls based on the internal kingdom of the one who rules it. Solomon knew that a mind aligned with universal law becomes a magnet for everything the unaligned mind chases in vain. Picture a vast tree whose roots run deep into underground streams. The tree does not chase water, yet it never thirsts. It does not pursue nutrients, yet it grows tall and strong. It does not beg for sunlight, yet it reaches toward heaven. This is the mind that understands first, acquires second. This is the consciousness that seeks the source instead of the symptoms. When Carnegie built his steel empire, he did not begin by chasing contracts. He began by understanding the laws that govern men and materials. When Ford revolutionized industry, he did not start with profit margins. He started with principles that would make profit inevitable. When Edison illuminated the world, he did not commence with commercial calculations. He commenced with comprehension of the forces that govern energy itself. Every man who has ever built something lasting understood what Solomon understood, that seeking wisdom is not the longer path to wealth, it is the only path to wealth that endures. The man who chases money gets money that runs away. The man who chases understanding gets understanding that draws money to him like metal to a magnet. Your problem is not that you lack intelligence. Your problem is that you have been conditioned to seek the wrong thing first. You have been taught to pursue the harvest while ignoring the soil. You have been trained to grab for the fruit while neglecting the root. You have been programmed to want the kingdom while despising the preparation required to hold it. The moment you shift from asking for things to asking for understanding, everything changes. Your mind stops being a beggar and becomes a king. Your thoughts stop being reactive and become creative. Your life stops being a desperate scramble and becomes a deliberate construction. This is the choice that separates the builders from the beggars, the creators from the consumers, the rulers from the ruled. Make Solomon's choice, and Solomon's results become inevitable. Choose understanding over accumulation, and accumulation becomes your servant. Choose wisdom over wealth, and wealth becomes your natural inheritance. Today, you face the same divine offer that confronted Solomon. Not literally, but practically. Every moment you choose what to seek first, you are making Solomon's choice, or its opposite. When you wake up tomorrow, you can reach for your phone to check what others have gained, or you can reach for your journal to record what you have learned. You can inventory your lacks, or you can inventory your lessons. You can chase symptoms, or you can seek sources. The kingdom you seek is not out there, it is in here. And it begins with a single decision to seek first the thing that makes all other things possible. Choose understanding, and watch how the universe reorganizes itself around your transformed mind. This is not mysticism. This is the most practical strategy ever discovered. This is Solomon's secret, and today it becomes yours. Number 2, the invisible laws that govern empires. You have been living as if success is random, as if greatness is a matter of luck, as if empires rise and fall by chance. You hustle harder, work longer, network more, and still you watch lesser men ascend, while you remain trapped in cycles of effort without elevation. You are exhausted because you are fighting against laws you cannot see, breaking rules you do not understand, violating principles that govern all lasting achievement. There are invisible laws that operate in this universe with mathematical precision. They care nothing for your feelings, your background, your excuses, or your good intentions. They reward compliance and punish violation with absolute consistency. Every empire that has ever endured was built by men who discovered these laws and submitted to them. Every kingdom that has crumbled was ruled by those who ignored them. The first law is this: thoughts rule circumstances, not the reverse. Your external world is nothing more than the hardened shadow of your internal world. Change the thought, and you change the thing. Master the mind, and you master the environment. This is not positive thinking. This is the recognition that consciousness creates, and what consciousness creates, consciousness can change. The second law is that silence is strategic force. In a world of endless noise, the man who has learned to be quiet has learned to be powerful. Words carelessly spoken scatter your energy to the winds. Words deliberately withheld concentrate your power like a dam concentrates water. The man who speaks less commands more attention. The man who argues less wins more battles. The third law is that speech legislates reality. What you say repeatedly becomes what you experience consistently. Your words are not just sounds, they are commands to the universe. They are instructions to your subconscious mind. They are legislation that your life must obey. Speak defeat, and defeat becomes your reality. Speak victory, and victory becomes your destiny. The fourth law is that reverence is the foundation of authority. No man truly rules who does not first submit. No one commands respect who does not first show respect. The leader who acknowledges a higher power becomes a conduit for that power. The ruler who honors divine law becomes a channel for divine strength. These laws operate whether you believe in them or not. They function whether you understand them or not. They work whether you like them or not. You can spend your entire life fighting against gravity, or you can learn to work with it and discover flight. You can exhaust yourself resisting these invisible forces, or you can align yourself with them and find that what once seemed impossible becomes inevitable. Look around you. Every man who has built something lasting discovered these laws and obeyed them. Every empire that has endured was constructed on this foundation. Every kingdom that has collapsed violated these principles and paid the price. The corporations that survive economic storms are those led by men who understand that inner order creates outer stability. The leaders who retain power through crisis are those who learn to govern their thoughts before attempting to govern others. The fortunes that pass from generation to generation belong to families who built on principle, not just profit. You can continue to build on sand, wondering why your structures always collapse when the storms come. Or you can choose to dig deeper, to lay your foundation on laws that have governed human achievement since the beginning of time. The choice is yours, but the consequences are not negotiable. These invisible laws are not suggestions. They are not recommendations. They are not guidelines for those who feel like following them. They are the operating system of reality itself. Learn them, and you join the ranks of those who shape the world. Ignore them, and you remain among those who are shaped by it. Your empire awaits, but it will only be built on the foundation of universal law. Everything else is just noise, effort, and ultimately failure. The question is not whether these laws exist. The question is whether you will submit to them and claim your inheritance, or continue to violate them and wonder why success always slips through your fingers. Number 3, strategic silence as real power. You talk too much, you argue too often, you explain too frequently, you defend too quickly, you justify too desperately, and with every unnecessary word you leak power like a punctured tire leaks air. You have been conditioned to believe that speaking loudly makes you heard, that arguing aggressively makes you right, that explaining constantly makes you understood. You are wrong on all counts. Solomon spoke little and ruled much. He observed more than he argued. He listened more than he lectured. He decreed more than he debated. In a world of noise, he became the signal. In a sea of chatter, he became the silence that commanded attention. His power was not in his words, but in his restraint. His strength was not in his arguments, but in his ability to remain quiet when lesser men would have spoken. True power whispers while weakness shouts. Real authority needs no justification. Genuine confidence requires no defense. The man who has learned to govern his tongue has learned to govern his world. The leader who has mastered the art of strategic silence has mastered the art of command. Think of the most powerful people you know. They are not the ones who dominate every conversation. They are not the ones who always have the last word. They are the ones who speak when their words carry weight, who remain silent when silence serves their purpose, who understand that every word is either building their empire or tearing it down. A river that flows quietly cuts deeper than a river that roars. A mind that operates in silence penetrates further than a mind that operates in noise. A man who has learned to be still has learned to be formidable. In the space between words, wisdom grows. In the pause between thoughts, power accumulates. In the discipline of silence, leadership is born. The marketplace is full of voices competing for attention. The internet is cluttered with opinions demanding validation. The world is drowning in noise, and in this chaos, the man who has learned to be quiet becomes the man who gets heard, not because he speaks louder, but because he speaks less. Not because he argues more, but because he argues never. Not because he explains everything, but because he explains nothing that does not serve his purpose. When you speak, you reveal your position. When you argue, you expose your weakness. When you explain, you diminish your authority. When you defend, you acknowledge attack. When you justify, you admit guilt. The man who has learned strategic silence has learned to be invisible to his enemies and invaluable to his allies. Silence is not weakness. It is concentrated strength. It is not emptiness. It is fullness under control. It is not the absence of power. It is power in its purest form, undiluted by unnecessary words, uncompromised by careless speech, undiminished by the need to be heard. Your words are your weapons. Like any weapon, they must be used sparingly, precisely, and with deadly effect. The general who fires all his ammunition at once has no ammunition left when the real battle begins. The leader who speaks on every topic has no authority left when the crucial moment arrives. Learn to be comfortable with silence. Learn to be powerful in pause. Learn to be formidable in stillness. When others are speaking, be listening. When others are arguing, be observing. When others are explaining, be understanding. When others are defending, be deciding. The man who talks about his plans gives his enemies time to prepare. The man who argues about his principles gives his opponents ammunition to use against him. The man who explains his methods gives his competitors insight into his strategies. The man who defends his decisions gives his critics power to question his judgment. But the man who remains silent while others reveal themselves holds all the cards. He knows their plans while they know nothing of his. He understands their weaknesses while they understand nothing of his strengths. He operates from knowledge while they operate from assumption. This is not the silence of the weak. This is the silence of the wise. This is not the quietness of the defeated. This is the quietness of the victorious. This is not the stillness of the empty. This is the stillness of the full. Master your tongue, and you master your destiny. Control your words, and you control your world. Govern your speech, and you govern your empire. The kingdom belongs to those who have learned that the most powerful sound is the sound of silence, strategically deployed, purposefully maintained, and deliberately chosen over the noise that destroys more men than all the armies of the earth. Number 4, wealth is a byproduct, not a goal. You have been chasing money like a dog chases its own tail, running in circles, exhausting yourself, never catching what you seek. You check your bank account more often than you check your character. You plan your days around profit margins instead of principles. You measure your worth by your net worth and wonder why both remain stagnant despite your desperate efforts. Solomon never chased gold. He built the architecture of mind and spirit that naturally attracts it. He understood that wealth is not a prize to be won, but a byproduct to be earned. He knew that money is not a goal to be achieved, but a result to be experienced. He recognized that riches are not something you get, but something you become worthy of receiving. The man who makes money his master becomes money's slave. The man who makes money his servant becomes money's master. The difference is not in the amount possessed, but in the relationship maintained. One man serves his wealth. The other man's wealth serves him. One man is owned by his riches. The other man owns his riches completely. Every fortune that has ever lasted was built by someone who understood this principle. Carnegie did not start with the goal of becoming rich. He started with the goal of serving industry better than anyone else. Ford did not begin with the dream of accumulating wealth. He began with the dream of revolutionizing transportation. Edison did not commence with the desire for money. He commenced with the desire to illuminate the world. Their wealth was the shadow cast by their purpose. Their riches were the echo of their service. Their fortunes were the reflection of their focus on something greater than themselves. They became wealthy because they became valuable. They accumulated money because they created worth. They attracted gold because they generated genuine contribution. Look at the men around you who struggle financially despite their intelligence, their effort, their good intentions. They are chasing the effect while ignoring the cause. They are pursuing the symptom while neglecting the source. They are grabbing for the harvest while refusing to plant the seed. They want the reward without understanding the requirement. Money is like a shadow. The harder you chase it, the faster it runs away. The more you ignore it to focus on substance, the more naturally it follows. The man who runs toward the light finds that the shadow comes with him. The man who runs toward the shadow finds that the light gets farther away. Your problem is not that you lack the ability to make money. Your problem is that you have made money the goal instead of the byproduct. You have elevated the servant to the position of master. You have confused the tool with the purpose. You have mistaken the means for the end. When you shift your focus from accumulation to contribution, from getting to giving, from earning to learning, from profit to purpose, something magnificent happens. Your mind stops being a beggar and becomes a benefactor. Your thoughts stop being desperate and become generous. Your actions stop being reactive and become creative. The universe has a strange way of rewarding those who stop chasing rewards. The market has a peculiar habit of paying those who stop focusing on payment. The world has an odd tendency to enrich those who stop obsessing over riches. This is not mysticism. This is the natural law of reciprocity in action. The man who becomes so valuable that people line up to pay him never worries about money. The man who becomes so skilled that his services are in constant demand never struggles with scarcity. The man who becomes so useful that he is irreplaceable never fears financial insecurity. Build your skills, and money will chase you. Develop your character, and wealth will pursue you. Increase your value, and riches will find you. Focus on becoming the kind of person who deserves success, and success will have no choice but to manifest in your life. The wealthy man is not the man who has the most money. The wealthy man is the man who has the most control over money. The rich man is not the man who owns the most things. The rich man is the man who is owned by the fewest things. The prosperous man is not the man who earns the most. The prosperous man is the man who serves the most. Stop chasing money and start chasing mastery. Stop pursuing riches and start pursuing purpose. Stop running after wealth and start running toward wisdom. When you do, you will discover that money is like a faithful dog that follows its master home. It may not come when you call, but it will always come when you have something worth following. The kingdom of true wealth belongs to those who understand that money is not the destination but the vehicle, not the goal but the tool, not the master but the servant. Make this shift and watch how the universe reorganizes itself around your transformed relationship with abundance. Number 5, discipline as the backbone of eternal kingdoms. You live like a man without laws, waking when you feel like it, eating when you want to, working when you must, thinking whatever thoughts happen to drift through your mind. You have confused freedom with chaos, liberty with laziness, flexibility with weakness. You wonder why your life lacks power, why your goals remain dreams, why your potential stays buried. The answer is simple. You have no discipline, and without discipline, you have no destiny. Solomon was not a man of impulse. He was a man of order. He did not rule his kingdom by feeling, but by principle. He did not govern his people by emotion, but by law. He understood that the leader who cannot lead himself cannot lead others. The man who cannot discipline his own thoughts cannot discipline his circumstances. The ruler who cannot control his own habits cannot control his empire. Discipline is not punishment. It is power. It is not restriction. It is liberation. It is not the absence of freedom. It is the presence of direction. The disciplined man is not the slave of his habits, but the master of his habits. The disciplined mind is not the prisoner of routine, but the architect of results. Think of discipline as the invisible walls that protect your kingdom from the chaos that surrounds it. Without these walls, every random thought becomes a resident of your mind. Every passing impulse becomes a commander of your actions. Every external pressure becomes a dictator of your decisions. You become a leaf blown by every wind, a ship tossed by every wave, a man controlled by every circumstance. But the disciplined man has built walls around his consciousness. He has established borders around his behavior. He has created laws that govern his life. He wakes at the same time every morning, not because he has to, but because he has chosen to. He exercises his body, not because he enjoys it, but because he has decided to. He guards his thoughts, not because he is restricted, but because he is selective. The great men of history were not great because they had no struggles. They were great because they had disciplined struggles. They did not avoid problems. They solved problems systematically. They did not escape difficulties. They faced difficulties regularly. They did not prevent challenges. They prepared for challenges constantly. Carnegie maintained the same morning routine for 40 years. Ford followed the same principles of production regardless of market conditions. Edison worked by the same methods, whether he was failing or succeeding. Their greatness was not in their inspiration, but in their consistency. Their power was not in their motivation, but in their discipline. You want to build an empire, but you cannot build a habit. You want to create a legacy, but you cannot create a routine. You want to rule a kingdom, but you cannot rule your own schedule. You want to command respect, but you cannot command your own attention. You want to master your world, but you cannot master your own morning. Discipline begins with small things and builds to great things. It starts with waking up at the same time and extends to thinking the same thoughts. It commences with controlling your schedule and culminates in controlling your destiny. It begins with governing your body and ends with governing your life. The man who can force himself to wake up when he does not want to can force himself to work when he does not want to. The man who can discipline himself to exercise when he feels tired can discipline himself to study when he feels lazy. The man who can control his appetite can control his anger. The man who can master his schedule can master his circumstances. Your daily routine is the foundation of your future reality. Your morning habits are the architects of your evening results. Your consistent actions are the builders of your ultimate achievements. What you do repeatedly becomes what you are permanently. What you practice daily becomes what you possess eternally. The undisciplined man is always at the mercy of his moods. The disciplined man is always in control of his choices. The undisciplined man is ruled by his feelings. The disciplined man is ruled by his principles. The undisciplined man is a slave to his impulses. The disciplined man is a master of his instincts. Every kingdom that has fallen was conquered first by the lack of discipline in its ruler. Every empire that has endured was built on the foundation of disciplined leadership. Every fortune that has been lost was lost by the man who lost his discipline. Every legacy that has lasted was created by the man who maintained his discipline. Build your discipline, and you build your destiny. Strengthen your habits, and you strengthen your future. Control your routine, and you control your results. The kingdom you seek is not built by inspiration, but by discipline, not by motivation, but by consistency, not by feeling, but by principle. Your empire awaits, but it will only be built one disciplined day at a time, one consistent choice at a time, one principled action at a time. The question is not whether you have the ability to be disciplined. The question is whether you have the commitment to build the backbone upon which your eternal kingdom will stand. Number 6, failure as a silent teacher. You have been taught to fear failure like a plague, to hide it like a shameful secret, to avoid it like a deadly disease. You live in terror of making mistakes, paralyzed by the possibility of being wrong, frozen by the fear of falling short. You have been conditioned to believe that failure is the enemy of success, when in truth it is success's greatest teacher, its most valuable advisor, its most trusted guide. Solomon was not a perfect king. He made mistakes that cost him kingdoms. He trusted the wrong people. He ignored the right counsel. He allowed his heart to be divided and his focus to be scattered. But unlike the weak men who pretend their failures never happened, Solomon learned from every fall. He recorded every mistake. He analyzed every error. He transformed every failure into a foundation stone for future success. The man who has never failed has never truly tried. The man who has never fallen has never truly climbed. The man who has never been wrong has never truly learned. Failure is not the opposite of success. It is the raw material of success. It is not the enemy of greatness. It is the forge where greatness is hammered into shape. Every empire that has ever endured was built on the bones of failed experiments. Every fortune that has ever lasted was assembled from the lessons of lost investments. Every leader who has ever mattered was forged in the fire of failed attempts. The difference between the successful and the unsuccessful is not that the successful never fail. It is that the successful fail forward while the unsuccessful fail backward. When Edison failed 1,000 times before creating the light bulb, he did not see 1,000 failures. He saw 1,000 ways that did not work, 1,000 lessons that brought him closer to the way that would. When Ford's first automobile company went bankrupt, he did not see a dead end. He saw a detour that taught him what he needed to know to build an empire. When Carnegie lost his first fortune, he did not see a disaster. He saw an education that prepared him to build a legacy. Your failures are not your enemies, they are your teachers. They are not your obstacles, they are your opportunities. They are not your weaknesses, they are your strengths in disguise. Every mistake you make is a lesson waiting to be learned. Every error you commit is a course correction waiting to be implemented. Every failure you experience is a foundation stone waiting to be placed. But most men waste their failures. They hide them instead of studying them. They forget them instead of remembering them. They run from them instead of learning from them. They treat failure like a poison when it is actually medicine. They view failure like a curse when it is actually a blessing. They see failure as an ending when it is actually a beginning. The wise man keeps a record of his failures. He writes them down. He analyzes them. He studies them like a scientist studies specimens. He asks himself, what went wrong? Why did it go wrong? How can I prevent it from going wrong again? What did this teach me? How can I use this lesson to succeed next time? This is not self-torture. This is self-education. This is not dwelling on the past. This is preparing for the future. This is not punishment for failure. This is profit from failure. The man who learns from his mistakes makes them investments instead of expenses. The man who studies his failures makes them assets instead of liabilities. Your failures are data, they are information, they are intelligence, they are reconnaissance reports from the battlefield of life. They tell you where the enemy is strong, they reveal where you are weak, they show you where the traps are hidden, they point you toward the path that leads to victory. The man who fails fast learns fast. The man who fails often learns often. The man who fails forward learns forward. But the man who fails and learns nothing fails forever. The man who fails and hides from the lesson fails repeatedly. The man who fails and makes no changes fails predictably. Solomon's greatest wisdom came not from his successes but from his failures. His deepest insights came not from his victories but from his defeats. His most valuable lessons came not from what he did right but from what he did wrong. He became the wisest man who ever lived, not because he never failed, but because he never wasted a failure. The kingdom you seek to build will not be built without failure. The empire you dream of creating will not be created without setbacks. The legacy you hope to leave will not be left without mistakes. The question is not whether you will fail. The question is whether you will learn. Every failure is a silent teacher waiting to speak. Every mistake is a quiet counselor waiting to advise. Every setback is a patient instructor waiting to educate. But they only teach those who are willing to listen. They only counsel those who are willing to learn. They only instruct those who are willing to change. Turn your failures into your faculty. Make your mistakes your mentors. Transform your setbacks into your schoolhouse. The man who learns faster than he fails becomes unstoppable. The man who grows stronger from his defeats becomes invincible. The man who builds his empire on the foundation of his failures builds something that can never be destroyed. Number 7, the power of a definite purpose. You drift through life like a ship without a compass, moving with every current, blown by every wind, ending up wherever chance decides to take you. You have goals that change with your moods, dreams that shift with your circumstances, ambitions that vary with your emotions. You wonder why your life lacks power, why your efforts lack focus, why your results lack consistency. The answer is simple. You have no definite purpose, and without definite purpose, you have no definite power. Solomon did not rule randomly. He did not govern by impulse. He did not lead by accident. He had a covenant to fulfill, a temple to build, a kingdom to establish, a legacy to create. His purpose was not vague. It was specific. It was not temporary. It was permanent. It was not changeable. It was fixed. This definite purpose gave him definite power, and this definite power gave him definite results. Purpose is the organizing principle of power. It is the North Star of achievement. It is the magnet that attracts the resources you need and repels the distractions you do not. Without purpose, your energy scatters like light through a prism. With purpose, your energy concentrates like light through a lens. Scattered light illuminates nothing. Concentrated light can cut through steel. The man without purpose is like a general without a battle plan. He may have the finest army, the best equipment, the most resources, but without a clear objective, his forces will be defeated by a smaller army with a clearer mission. The man with purpose is like a river that has found its channel. All the water flows in one direction, creating a force that can move mountains, carve canyons, and reach the sea. Look around you at the men who have built empires. They did not build them by accident. They did not create them by chance. They did not establish them by coincidence. They had a definite purpose that guided every decision, informed every action, and determined every result. Their purpose was not a wish. It was a law. It was not a hope. It was a command. It was not a dream. It was a decree. Carnegie's purpose was to build the greatest steel empire the world had ever seen. Ford's purpose was to put America on wheels. Edison's purpose was to illuminate the world with electric light. These were not casual interests. They were consuming passions. They were not part-time pursuits. They were full-time commitments. They were not temporary goals. They were permanent purposes. Your problem is not that you lack ability. Your problem is that you lack clarity. You have not defined what you want with sufficient precision to attract it. You have not declared what you seek with sufficient power to command it. You have not committed to what you desire with sufficient intensity to achieve it. A definite purpose is not a wish list. It is not a collection of hopes. It is not a catalog of dreams. It is a single, clear, specific, measurable, achievable, time-bound objective that becomes the organizing principle of your entire existence. It is the hub around which all your activities revolve. It is the sun around which all your efforts orbit. When you have a definite purpose, you do not need motivation. You have direction. You do not need inspiration. You have intention. You do not need encouragement. You have commitment. Your purpose pulls you forward when you feel like stopping. Your purpose pushes you onward when you feel like quitting. Your purpose drives you upward when you feel like falling. The man with a definite purpose sees opportunities where others see obstacles. The man with a definite purpose finds ways where others find excuses. The man with a definite purpose creates solutions where others create problems. His purpose acts like a filter, allowing only those thoughts, actions, and associations that serve his objective to enter his experience. Write your purpose down, not your purposes, your purpose. One clear, specific, definite statement of what you intend to accomplish. Make it so clear that a child could understand it. Make it so specific that progress can be measured. Make it so compelling that it energizes you. Make it so important that it organizes your entire life around its achievement. Read your purpose every morning before you start your day. Speak your purpose every evening before you end your day. Think your purpose every moment between the start and the end. Let it become the lens through which you see every opportunity, the standard by which you judge every decision, the force that drives every action. Your purpose must be definite, or it will not be powerful. It must be specific, or it will not be achievable. It must be written, or it will not be remembered. It must be declared, or it will not be commanded. It must be lived, or it will not be realized. The universe responds to definiteness. It rewards clarity. It supports specificity. It assists those who know exactly what they want and are willing to pay exactly what it costs. But it ignores the vague, abandons the unclear, and defeats the indefinite. Without a definite purpose, you are like a soldier without a mission, a salesman without a product, a teacher without a lesson. You have all the tools but no blueprint, all the materials but no plan, all the energy but no direction. With a definite purpose, you become a force of nature, a power of destiny, a creator of reality. Your empire begins with a single decision to define your purpose with absolute clarity and pursue it with absolute commitment. Make this decision today and watch how the universe reorganizes itself around your transformed intention. This is not theory. This is the law of definite purpose in action, and it has never failed anyone who has truly applied it. Number 8, reverence as the hidden foundation. You live as if you are the center of the universe, as if your ego is the source of all power, as if your limited understanding is the measure of all truth. You have replaced reverence with arrogance, worship with performance, humility with ego. You wonder why your talents collapse under pressure, why your success breeds emptiness, why your achievements leave you feeling hollow. The answer is simple. You have built your kingdom on the foundation of self instead of the foundation of reverence, and no empire built on self can endure. Solomon understood what modern man has forgotten, that true authority comes not from asserting your power, but from acknowledging a higher power. He knew that the leader who recognizes no authority above himself will eventually recognize no authority within himself. He understood that the man who bows to no one will eventually bow to everyone. He knew that reverence is not weakness, but the source of all strength. Reverence is not religion, it is recognition. It is not about ritual, it is about reality. It is not about ceremony, it is about certainty. It is the acknowledgement that you are not the source of your own power, that you are not the creator of your own gifts, that you are not the architect of your own existence. You are a steward, not an owner. You are a channel, not a source. You are a servant, not a master. The man who has learned reverence has learned the secret of unlimited power. He does not depend on his own strength alone. He draws from a strength that never fails. He does not rely on his own wisdom alone. He taps into a wisdom that never errs. He does not trust in his own resources alone. He connects to resources that never run dry. Look at the greatest leaders in history. They were not the most arrogant. They were the most reverent. They did not claim to be self-made. They acknowledged that they were divinely assisted. They did not boast about their own power. They spoke about the power that worked through them. They did not worship their own abilities. They worshiped the source of their abilities. Washington knelt in prayer before every major battle. Lincoln spent hours in meditation before every crucial decision. The great industrialists attended church not for show but for strength. They understood that the man who attempts to build without divine blessing builds in vain. They knew that the leader who tries to rule without higher authority rules without lasting power. Your ego tells you that you are sufficient. Your pride tells you that you need no help. Your arrogance tells you that you are the master of your fate. But your results tell you otherwise. Your struggles tell you the truth. Your failures tell you the reality. You are not sufficient. You do need help. You are not the master of your fate. You are, at best, a partner in your destiny. Reverence is not about admitting weakness. It is about accessing strength. It is not about confessing limitation. It is about transcending limitation. It is not about acknowledging defeat. It is about claiming victory. The man who reverently submits to higher law becomes a channel for higher power. The man who humbly acknowledges divine authority becomes a conduit for divine ability. When you operate from reverence, you operate from a place of abundance instead of scarcity. You work from confidence instead of fear. You lead from certainty instead of doubt. You know that you are not fighting your battles alone. You know that you are not solving your problems alone. You know that you are not building your empire alone. Reverence changes everything. It changes how you think, how you act, how you speak, how you lead. It changes your relationship with power, with people, with problems, with possibilities. It changes your understanding of success, of failure, of purpose, of meaning. It changes your definition of strength, of wisdom, of wealth, of worth. The irreverent man is always anxious because he knows that everything depends on him. The reverent man is always peaceful because he knows that nothing depends on him alone. The irreverent man is always striving because he believes that he must earn everything. The reverent man is always receiving because he knows that he has already been given everything he needs. This is not about blind faith. This is about intelligent recognition. This is not about superstition. This is about spiritual law. This is not about religious performance. This is about practical power. The man who aligns himself with divine principle becomes a channel for divine power. The man who submits to eternal law becomes a conduit for eternal strength. Your empire will only be as strong as its foundation. Your kingdom will only be as stable as its cornerstone. Your legacy will only be as lasting as its base. Build on ego, and you build on sand. Build on pride, and you build on pride that goes before a fall. Build on arrogance, and you build on arrogance that precedes destruction. But build on reverence, and you build on bedrock. Build on humility, and you build on the foundation that never fails. Build on acknowledgement of higher power, and you build on power that never runs out. Build on recognition of divine authority, and you build on authority that never ends. The kingdom you seek to build will only endure if it is built on the foundation of reverence. The empire you dream of creating will only last if it is created with acknowledgement of higher power. The legacy you hope to leave will only survive if it is submitted to eternal law. Reverence is not the enemy of ambition. It is the foundation of achievement. It is not the opposite of power. It is the source of power. It is not the denial of greatness. It is the pathway to greatness. The man who has learned reverence has learned the secret that turns ordinary men into extraordinary leaders and transforms temporal success into eternal significance. Number 9, the new inner constitution. You have lived your entire life without a constitution, without laws that govern your thoughts, without principles that guide your actions, without statutes that regulate your behavior. You wonder why your life lacks order, why your efforts lack consistency, why your results lack predictability. The answer is simple. You have no inner government, and without inner government, you have no outer empire. Every great nation has a constitution. Every successful organization has bylaws. Every thriving business has policies. Every lasting institution has rules. But most men live like anarchists with no law higher than their feelings, no authority greater than their impulses, no government stronger than their moods. They are surprised when their lives produce chaos instead of order, confusion instead of clarity, failure instead of success. Today, you will write your constitution. Not for a nation, but for yourself. Not for an organization, but for your life. Not for a business, but for your existence. You will establish the fundamental laws that will govern your thoughts, your words, your actions, and your associations. You will create the inner government that will produce the outer empire. Your constitution must begin with your wake time. The man who cannot govern his schedule cannot govern his life. The man who cannot rule his morning cannot rule his day. The man who cannot master his awakening cannot master his achievement. Write down the exact time you will wake up every day. Not when you feel like it, not when you have to, when you have chosen to. This is your first law, and it must be obeyed without exception. Your constitution must include your thought discipline. The man who cannot choose his thoughts cannot choose his destiny. The man who cannot control his mind cannot control his circumstances. The man who cannot govern his consciousness cannot govern his world. Write down the specific thoughts you will think, the specific thoughts you will reject, the specific thoughts you will cultivate. Your mind is your kingdom, and you must rule it with absolute authority. Your constitution must govern your speech. The man who cannot control his words cannot control his world. The man who cannot govern his tongue cannot govern his territory. The man who cannot rule his speech cannot rule his subjects. Write down the specific words you will speak, the specific words you will avoid, the specific words you will use to create the reality you desire. Your words are your laws, and they must be chosen with the care of a Supreme Court justice. Your constitution must regulate your associations. The man who cannot choose his companions cannot choose his character. The man who cannot select his advisors cannot select his achievements. The man who cannot govern his relationships cannot govern his results. Write down the specific people you will associate with, the specific people you will avoid, the specific people you will learn from. Your associations are your environment, and your environment shapes your empire. Your constitution must establish your work discipline. The man who cannot govern his labor cannot govern his life. The man who cannot rule his productivity cannot rule his prosperity. The man who cannot master his output cannot master his outcome. Write down the specific work you will do, the specific hours you will work, the specific results you will produce. Your work is your worship, and it must be performed with reverence and discipline. Your constitution must mandate your daily audit. The man who cannot examine his day cannot improve his destiny. The man who cannot review his actions cannot refine his results. The man who cannot assess his performance cannot advance his position. Write down the specific questions you will ask yourself every evening, the specific standards you will measure yourself against, the specific improvements you will make. Your daily audit is your daily education, and education is the foundation of elevation. Your constitution must be written down, not typed, written by hand in ink. On paper, the physical act of writing creates a neurological pathway that typing cannot create. The visual impact of seeing your own handwriting creates a psychological commitment that digital text cannot create. The permanence of ink creates a spiritual contract that changeable text cannot create. Your constitution must be declared out loud, not whispered, declared, with power, with conviction, with authority. The act of speaking your constitution programs your subconscious mind. The sound of your own voice creates a vibrational frequency that attracts corresponding circumstances. The declaration of your laws creates a command to the universe. Your constitution must be lived without compromise. It is not a suggestion. It is not a recommendation. It is not a guideline. It is the supreme law of your personal nation. Violate it, and you undermine your own authority. Compromise it, and you weaken your own power. Ignore it, and you destroy your own empire. The man who creates his own constitution becomes his own king. The man who establishes his own laws becomes his own ruler. The man who governs himself becomes ungovernable by others. He is not controlled by circumstances because he controls his responses. He is not ruled by emotions because he rules his thoughts. He is not governed by others because he governs himself. This is not theory. This is the practical blueprint for personal sovereignty. This is not philosophy. This is the actionable system for self-mastery. This is not motivation. This is the constitutional foundation upon which your empire will be built. Write your constitution today. Declare it tomorrow. Live it forever. The world belongs to those who govern themselves first, rule themselves completely, and build themselves systematically. Your kingdom awaits, but it will only be built on the foundation of inner law, sustained by the power of self-government, and ruled by the authority of personal constitution. The age of external rulers is ending. The age of internal government is beginning. The future belongs to those who have learned to rule themselves. Write your constitution and claim your throne. The empire you seek is not out there. It is in here, and it begins with a single decision to become the sovereign ruler of your own existence. You now stand where Solomon once stood, at the threshold between two worlds. Behind you lies the old kingdom of noise, desperation, and empty pursuit. Before you stretches the new empire of silence, purpose, and inevitable harvest. The choice that defined his destiny now defines yours. The ancient king understood what you now understand, that there is an invisible architecture governing all visible success. There are laws written in the fabric of reality itself, waiting to be discovered by those who seek understanding before accumulation, wisdom before wealth, principle before profit. As you walk forward into this new awareness, you carry with you the same power that flowed through Solomon's kingdom. The same divine current that moved through Carnegie's steel, Ford's assembly lines, Edison's laboratories, and Lincoln's leadership now courses through your consciousness. You are not separate from this power. You are its newest expression. The world watches and waits to see what you will build. It observes to discover what empire you will establish. It listens to hear what laws you will declare, but it does not wait for your permission. It waits for your decision, it waits for your commitment, it waits for your constitution. Every morning when you wake, you write a new page in the book of your becoming. Every choice you make adds another stone to the foundation of your empire. Every word you speak either builds or destroys the kingdom you are creating. Every thought you think either strengthens or weakens the sovereignty you are claiming. The path you have chosen is not the path of the many, it is the path of the few who understand that true power flows not from external possession but from internal position. It is the way of those who know that lasting wealth comes not from taking but from becoming, not from having but from being, not from grasping but from growing. This is your moment of becoming. This is your season of building. This is your time of ruling. The kingdom you seek is not a destination but a transformation. The empire you desire is not a place but a state of being. The crown you will wear is not made of gold but of wisdom, not adorned with jewels but with understanding, not inherited from others but earned through your own evolution. If you are ready to continue walking this path of kings, to keep building this empire of wisdom, to maintain this constitution of consciousness, then join those who have chosen the way of Solomon. Subscribe to this journey of transformation, and let us continue discovering together the ancient secrets that create modern empires. The world belongs to those who build in silence, rule in wisdom, and walk in alignment with eternal truth. Your kingdom awaits, and your reign has already begun.